Welcome to someone's favorite movie. My name is Randy, and this is the podcast that's fueled by the viral marketing campaign in which we ask the question, who is Tomko? In order to garner interest across this great world of ours. So, who are you?
I don't know. Who is Tomko?
Who is Tomko? It's kind of a name like John Doe, so it's really...
Who is Tomko?
It's really mysterious. I had a Tomko come in last night, unidentified.
What? I have to know. What is a Tomko?
A Tomko is, well, usually when I was a kid growing up, my grandparents had a farm, and they're like, be careful when you go out in the field there. Bring the dog with you, because there's a bunch of wild Tomkos out there, you see? I'm like, okay.
They're a friendly lot.
Well, sometimes, some of you. One time, I was out in the field picking an ear of corn, and a Tomko ran up to me and scratched me right betwixt the eyes.
Oh.
I know. That's what I said. I said, oh. What a stupid podcast we have, huh?
I'm entertained.
I'm glad. Today we are talking about a movie that Tomko holds so dearly to his heart.
Love this movie.
You did say, and I thought this was a ballsy statement, sir. You did say this is your favorite superhero movie. Did you not?
It's at least in my top 3.
Oh,
at least.
Backpedaling Tomko. Here we go. Although
it's not quite Dark Knight level, but it's up there.
Top 3, huh?
Yes.
That's impressive. I don't even know what would be in my top 3, to be honest. I don't know. A lot of them, I like a lot of them, and a lot of them just blend together. So I think maybe Spider-Man 2, also a Sam Raimi joint, would be...
Amazing movie.
Yeah, no, not Amazing Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2.
No. This was a superhero movie before superhero movies became way too serious about themselves.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And to me, I guess that's the part of the appeal of Darkman to me is because it starts with the basic idea that this is a completely original character that came to movie screens without baggage, the baggage that comes with decades of history and interpretations and fan expectations. I mean...
But it's still goofy as hell.
Oh, it is goofy, yeah. I mean... It's kind of weird because you also said it's the perfect combination of Sam Raimi between Army of Darkness and Spider-Man.
Yes.
And I can't think of a better comparison than that, quite honestly.
I mean, it's pure comic book and cinema, but again, it's not taking itself too seriously.
Yeah, this one came out right during my burgeoning. That's a fun word, huh? Burgeoning movie watching experience in my youth. So I do remember it, and I don't think I've seen it since I was a kid. But I remembered a few things about it vividly. Because this movie's tiptoeing right on the edge of mainstream blockbuster and indie oddity, I think. Like the drama of the movie.
This is like a definition of a cult movie, I would say. It's almost at the mainstream, but not quite.
Yeah, like the drama of the movie is cut up with these really weird, surreal moments of like cartoonish spontaneity that one, make it memorable, and two, make it pretty damn weird at the same time. And I vividly remember a lot of those sequences from my childhood. The other thing that I remember vividly is Darkman's goddamned face.
Whew. Yes.
The makeup effects
were amazing for the time.
And they're honestly still pretty great.
Yes, they are.
His face is frightening and it's ridiculous. And it's a Liam Neeson face, and they made it all hideous.
And it was... Do you remember the magazine Fangoria?
I do.
it was worthy enough to make Fangoria. If that means anybody to Generation X, that should say enough about this movie.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't even know that because I actually wrote down he's a gothic superhero with a face.
He absolutely is.
With a face straight from the pages of Fangoria.
Yes,
that's what I wrote, and he was on the page. Well, look at that. I'm brilliant, I guess. I think I think my elevator pitch for this movie would be Batman meets Phantom of the Opera.
Yes. Yeah. Now, how do you describe this movie? I mean, it's a weird movie.
Oh, it's super weird.
The only way I can really describe it is this is the Detroit superhero if you didn't have RoboCop.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean, you see the Renaissance Center, you see a lot of downtown Detroit. It definitely has that Motor City vibe, but I don't know. It's not quite Detroit.
Yeah, I had no idea. Does it take place in Detroit? Is it supposed to?
I don't know, but there are shots of the Renaissance Center.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have no doubt they filmed there probably, but I don't know.
Well, Sam Raimi is through and through a Michigander.
Right. Sam Raimi wanted to do a adaptation of The Shadow for his first major studio picture.
Mm-hmm.
But Universal, who held the rights, would not let him do it. So the world got Darkman instead, and I feel like that's a fair trade-off.
Yes, I think we came up for the better here.
And besides that, we got The Shadow later anyway, so who really cares?
No.
And I think you can really tell that it's influenced by The Shadow because Darkman wears the fedora and trench coat like The Shadow.
Yes.
And it's very, very pulpy in my eyes. Like,
oh yeah. It just feels like a cross between Dick Tracy and early Batman and just pulpy. Yeah, pulpy is the only word to really describe this.
Yeah, it's a pulpy premise, and the presentation, some of the dialogue too is
yes.
Who is Darkman? Darkman is Peyton Westlake, as played by Liam Neeson. He's a doctor trying to create artificial skin cells to help burn victims and other medical ailments. And he's developed this realistic artificial skin, but the problem is the cells he's created are photosensitive. They break down after 99 minutes if they're exposed to sunlight. So one day the power goes out at Westlake's lab. The cells reach that pivotal 100-minute mark, and he realizes it's the dark that did it. And he says, "The dark, oh yes, the dark. What is it about the dark? What secret does it hold?" And I'm like, that's so freaking 1930s pulp right there.
Well, in all honesty, a lot of it has to come. You got to look at this in the time at which it comes out. This was right after the first Tim Burton Batman movie. You can't overstate that enough.
Yeah. And Danny Elfman, who scored the movie, this score for this movie is very Batman 89-esque.
This whole movie is very gothic.
You can tell it's a Danny Elfman score, though, right off the bat. Like,
yes.
He's got like that. He's kind of got like a brooding theatrical vibe to him, but also there's elements of like a circus parade in it as well at various times. It's really a unique style, but it always works out well.
And especially because I really think Sam Raimi embraces the nature of that score in certain parts, like in the carnival scene. He knew what he was working with, and he just adapted to it, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. By the way, that carnival scene is a pretty hellish nightmare itself.
It's one of my all-time favorite scenes. I love it.
We'll
get to it.
The pink elephant, if you please.
Take it. Take the fucking elephant.
Unfortunately, the soundtrack to this movie didn't feature a Darkman dance song by Prince like his Bat Dance contribution. That's a missed opportunity, I think, in Prince's career. Danny Elfman said that I should say Variety, or was it the Hollywood? I don't know, one of the two. Variety or the Hollywood Reporter did an oral history of Darkman a few days ago because, believe it or not, it's the 30-year anniversary of it this year.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you old, sir. You
Oh,
old.
no.
You so old.
I remember seeing this in the theater. I'm that old.
Yeah. I don't. Next time you go to the store, and I urge you not to, but the next time you go to the store, please don't look at the cash register and the sign that says, if you were born in this year, you can buy alcohol. Don't look at it, because
no.
Your depression will spiral even further. You will become the dark man then. So Danny Elfman said that in this oral history, because of Evil Dead, Sam Raimi went on my short list of, if they call, just say yes. So his office called about Darkman and said, he would like to meet you, but he's shooting. Can you go down to the set? It's a night set at Universal with water cranes for rain. He introduces himself really quickly, says he loves my work, and then says, let's put this guy to work. They put me in a raincoat, gave me a bucket, and tell me that when Liam comes stumbling out, you throw the water in his face for when a car passes by and splashed him. I cursed him later because I got a cold.
I don't know. I mean, this was a movie that was definitely of its time.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that it was right after the first Batman movie, but it was before the first Spider-Man movie or the first X-Men movie. It was in that kind of, I don't know, almost embryonic comic book stage that you could actually play around with the genre without upsetting too many people.
Yeah, back then, superheroes at the movie theaters were not a given in every multiplex across the land. We had a handful of Superman movies. We had Batman 89. And then we'd get random, obscure indie properties for some reason that slipped through the cracks. Like Tank Girl would come out a few years later, and Barbed Wire. And like,
back then they were perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And people were open to new ideas. Unlike today, they have to be the things that your parents or your grandparents read or watched back in the days. You know, back then we were open to new ideas.
Well, yeah. I mean, because we thought we would never actually see like the heroes we read about on the screen. We had Batman, but that was kind of a rarity.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when I saw Batman 89 as a kid, I was just an exasperated fanboy.
Oh, it was the ultimate back then.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I was a little bit weirded out. Yeah, 8 years old. If I had a Twitter page, I would have been expressing my outrage because his costume was all black, and that pissed me off because, no, Batman's supposed to wear blue and gray, goddammit.
Or at least black and gray. But no, I mean, they at least captured the gothic imagery as opposed to what they had in Adam West.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I kind of miss the days of the early to mid 90s where people were at least willing to experiment with the genre.
Yeah. And you had movies too, like you had Blank Man and Meteor Man that came out. That were superhero movies, but they were
Mystery Men, even The Mask.
Yeah.
Before everyone took these things so goddamn seriously.
Yeah. I've heard good things about. I haven't seen it yet, but there's a movie called Project Power on Netflix right now.
Okay.
And it was, believe it or not, it was directed by the boys that did the documentary Catfish, and then the TV show on MTV Catfish, that's where the term catfishing comes from. So they got that going for them, which is nice. But they apparently are trying to be real movie makers, filmmakers. And so they released this kind of, I don't know, sort of pseudo big budget-esque superhero property on Netflix called Project Power. And the premise is it's a world where pills exist on the street that give you superpowers for 5 minutes. And the powers are completely random. You never know what you're going to get the first time you take it. But once you have that power and then you take another pill, that's your power for life. For example, if you take the pill the first time and it turns you invisible, then the second time you'll be invisible as well.
Okay.
And I guess they pulled it off really well. There's a lot of unique concepts and ideas and like flipping certain powers and like conceits of the genre on its head. And I can appreciate that. And I think we need more of that. Like, we need to take the piss out of things a little bit more. Like, that's why Deadpool was so fucking refreshing when it came out.
I agree.
For one thing, it captured the character perfectly, and for another, it was completely irreverent, and it wasn't afraid to make fun of its own continuity bullshit either. So,
yeah, I mean, if you go back in time and talk to Bob Kane, Bill Finger, Jerry Siegel, Stan Lee, and tell them that the things that they thought of on the drop of a hat would be revered so much the way that they are today, I can't but think that they would think that we're all morons.
Yeah. Well,
so why not just have fun with all of these weird ideas that they had?
I mean, those were just, they were just trying to eat. They were
exactly, yeah.
Like Siegel and Schuster sold the rights for Superman for what,
like
$150?
$75?
Yeah, something like that. It was nothing for a multi-billion-dollar property that will never go away. It's crazy.
So shit, just have fun with it. And that's why I love this movie. They took this weird concept and just spun it off to what they thought would be the logical conclusion.
Yeah. It is very Sam Raimi-esque. It's
everything about this screams Sam Raimi, from the story beats to the acting to the editing to the camera movements. It is, you look at this, it's a Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah, he's taken some of the weirdness from the Evil Dead movies and he's just putting it in a mainstream movie. Well, what I don't know. I'm sure
it was marketed very much as a mainstream movie.
Yeah, because they had the viral marketing campaign of Who is Darkman?
Mm-hmm.
It was just those words and then a picture of Darkman. And that's all it was. And you're like, yeah, who the fuck is Darkman? It seemed to work, I guess.
It sold me a ticket.
There's a bunch of weird moments in this, like we were saying. Like, there's some, like, stop motion animation in it. There's, like, some cartoon effects. There's, like, it's very... Do you think a movie like this could be made today?
Not in the theaters, maybe for Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah.
But I can't see a major studio pushing this.
Yeah, I can't either, honestly.
I mean, this is definitely art house before art house was a thing.
Yeah. Raimi said he was inspired to make Darkman. Well, because he wanted to do an adaptation of The Shadow, but also he was inspired by the Universal horror films of the 30s and 40s because, quote, they made me fear the hideous nature of the hero and at the same time drew me to him. I went back to the idea of the man who is noble and turns into a monster. So he originally wrote a 30-page short story titled The Darkman and then turned that into a 40-page movie treatment.
And it made a minor splash at the time, but it didn't really go anywhere, did it?
Well, you got two direct-to-video sequels. You got a video game.
There was a video game?
Yeah, there was a Darkman video game for the NES. Of course there was. I don't know if there was toys, but probably because everything was a toy back then, it seemed like.
Now, I remember there was the two straight to VHS movies that were ignored because back in the day, straight to video was kind of looked down upon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And add to that, you had Jeff Fahey, who was ultra looked down upon.
Right. Yeah.
No respect to you, Mr. Fahey, but your reputation in the early to mid 90s was not great. And the fact that you were in a movie called Darkman, Die didn't really attract a lot of people.
I love the name of that, by the way.
Darkman, Die.
It's so great.
Now, you're way more committed to these movies than I am. Have you watched any of the Darkman sequels?
No, I did not. I was going to, and then I was like, I don't want to.
Yeah, no. I can't blame you.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time when we do these things, I do, but I just didn't have time or ambition, really. So I was like, I don't want to.
And honestly, I mean, Darkman, the first one is just such a perfect jewel of an early 90s superhero movie. It doesn't belong to anything. It's definitely an auteur movie. You look at this and you can definitely say, okay, this fits in Sam Raimi's chronology. It's not a Marvel movie. It's not a DC movie. It's a Sam Raimi movie. I'm not shedding any new light here. I'm a big Evil Dead fan. This is definitely a continuation of the Evil Dead movie. You can't have Army of Darkness without Darkman. So, I mean, this holds a special place in my heart.
There are some problems with this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the number of rewrites and etc. The producer on the movie in this oral history, Robert Tappert, he said, quote, this is an exaggeration, but you get the point. There are 5,000 names on that script. It was constantly being rewritten. In hindsight, I'm not sure it ever got better. It just incorporated more people's pisses. The Coen brothers were not credited by the Guild, but they were instrumental early on with building the structure. The idea sprung from Sam's head, and Joel and Ethan coaxed him along that road. Isn't that amazing? The Coen brothers were influential.
Again, I'm a major Evil Dead fan, so I know that they helped edit the original Evil Dead, so it's not that surprising.
Oh, they did? I didn't know that.
They did, yes.
Oh. Yeah, because they were roomies with Sam Raimi, weren't they?
Yes, they were. So not that surprising, but again, I'm a geek.
Are you a Coen Brothers fan?
Yes.
We need to do some Coen Brothers.
We need to, yes.
Yeah. So the look of Darkman, he's all bandaged up, kind of like the Invisible Man, which takes you back to the Universal Monsters kind of conceit that Raimi noted earlier. The bandages are to cover up his burnt, charred face, but they also become a functional aesthetic for covering up the fake skin and protecting it from sunlight when he develops it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could have just used some sunscreen, I would think. If UV rays are the problem, get a high SPF. God, do I gotta solve all the problems around here, sir? But the look of Darkman is awesome, and to the 9-10-year-old that saw this movie, I mean, I was all about weird monster thingies, so it was great. Seriously, that scene where he's in the sewer and he's holding Ted Raimi and barking in his face, and you see the bandages kind of moving, and you sort of see his mouth amongst the bandages. That is fucking awesome scene.
Well, I mean, especially when you consider the time it was made, the early 90s, that was all practical effects. It was really impressive back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Liam Neeson actually had to learn how to talk with those weird fake teeth. Mm-hmm. He said he had to hold them in his mouth in a certain way, so he had to learn how to enunciate words in a different way.
Well, not only that, but he had to switch his accent from Irish to American.
Yeah, I'm not sure it always worked, but
no, it didn't. But again, you got to grade this movie on a curve.
Yeah, and I always thought that Liam Neeson didn't have a real nationality accent. I always dubbed that the Liam Neeson. Like
Yeah.
it's an accent unto itself. Nobody else has that sort of tone or timbre or flourish to their words. So, I give them a pass on that.
Now, I mean, what would you say about the plot of this movie? I mean, it's basically just a revenge plot, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's absolutely a revenge plot. So one night, Peyton Westlake is attacked at his lab by a gang of thugs led by a man named Robert Durant, is played by Larry Drake, Dr. Giggles himself, which is an amazing movie. I watched it during quarantine. That's how I spent my quarantine. How about you? For the first time, in fact, as a 38-year-old man, I watched Dr. Giggles. Anyways, Durant is a thug. He's got this hobby of collecting the fingers of his victims. And there's an interesting subtext that goes on between him and Ted Raimi, who plays a member of his gang. Did you notice that? It's not explored too much, but it's definitely there.
What, the gay undertone?
Yeah. I almost wish
it was definitely brought up at the time of release.
Yeah. I mean, I wish they would have did more with that. I think it would have made the character Durant more interesting than he was.
I agree. Yeah.
But I guess giving villains a, I don't know, sympathetic character or any sort of characterization kind of go against the pulpy nature of the movie too, I suppose. There's also a man with a gun leg in his gang, so there's that,
So over the top, it's fun.
Yeah. So Durant's ransacking the lab looking for the Belisarius Memorandum, which is a document that incriminates some developer in bribing members of the zoning commission, which is a sort of plot. We'll get there. Never in the history of the world has the word memorandum have been said so many times in a movie than this, but it's said constantly. Where's the memorandum?
Now, real curiosity, have you ever read Swamp Thing?
Bits and pieces, not a lot.
Oh, I really got a Swamp Thing vibe to the origin of this story, because in Swamp Thing, Alec Holland was a scientist who was working on a project that got disrupted by intruders. He tried to defend his project, and ultimately he was killed, and he melded with his project as a result of that interference.
Oh, man. Yeah, now that you mention it. And I'm sure it
had to be an influence.
You would think. I can't think of his name. What's the bandaged up dude's name in Doom Patrol?
Oh, Larry something. It's the Negative Man.
Oh, okay. I mean, Darkman kind of looks like him too.
Yeah, that had to be another influence.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because Doom Patrol is full of oddities and weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they're looking for this memorandum because Westlake's girlfriend, Julie, is some high-powered attorney, and she discovered it while working on a case. Julie's played by Frances McDormand, who reportedly clashed quite a bit with Raimi on set. And while I love Liam Neeson's performance in this movie, I feel like he's really given his all in it. He's got to do a lot of work in bandages and with his sad big eyes. But I believe it. But I think she's not so great in it.
I don't want to say she's not great in it, but she's not the main focus of this movie.
It was almost a very, very different movie. According to the oral history, producer Sam Tappert said, Julia Roberts came in. The studio was pushing for Julia for a number of reasons. Nancy Naylor, the casting director, said, she and Liam had dated briefly and were broken up. When they read the audition scene together, both actors had tears in their eyes. It was so intimate. right after her agent called and said she felt it might be better if she was taken out of consideration. I think she felt it would be just too awkward for them to work together again so soon under the circumstances. How weird would it have been if America's sweetheart Julia Roberts was in this movie?
If anything, I think it would have been probably a bigger success, because at that time it would have rode the wave of Pretty Woman. If I'm remembering right.
Yeah, that was right around the same time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Holy fuck. I can't imagine that 1-2 punch of Pretty Woman and Darkman.
Yeah,
Wow.
that would have definitely added a lot of dollars to the box office.
Well, and plus you have that narrative of, oh, they used to date. Look at them.
Yeah.
God, that would have been a whole different world. This could have been a much bigger hit with Julia Roberts.
It's easily could have been. Yeah.
We could still be having Darkman sequels right now. God damn it, Julia. You ruined it. You ruined everything. So basically the thugs find the memorandum and rough up Liam Neeson and melt his hands and then blow him up. And you literally see him fly up into the air like a human comet when the building explodes. And it's a scene that looks really, really fake, but it's still also really, really effective and disturbing and still fits with the entire tone of the movie despite looking so cheap, I think.
Especially because, it shows a flying, flaming skeleton wearing a lab coat. I don't know why, but the lab coat really added to it.
Right. He lands in the nearby water, and he's found and assumed to be homeless. And because of that, he's put through an experimental procedure. Because that's what you do when you find homeless people. You use them as guinea pigs.
And they can't say no, kids.
They can't say no. And because he's burned over 40% of his body, the head doctor says this awesome line that's so pulpy it makes me giggle. It makes me feel all yellowed and withery. 10 years ago, the man would have spent most of his time screaming. That's how much pain.
Oddly enough, the head doctor was the love interest in An American Werewolf in London.
Oh, I didn't draw that connection, but you're right, yeah.
Yes, she was.
Yeah. Didn't she play a nurse in that?
Yes, she did.
See? She used her experience.
And she was like the opposite in this movie, where she's literally jabbing him with pins just to show that he cannot feel pain.
Yeah. So this procedure blocked all the pain receptors in his body. But the side effects also include the fact that he'll have heightened emotions and occasional unrestrained adrenaline surges, giving him enhanced strength. And right before he wakes up, he has a nightmare that is a pure Sam Raimi acid trip. It's just weird and bizarre, and it's one of the things I remembered as a kid and to this day. So he breaks out of the hospital and uses his liquid skin knowledge to disguise himself and screw with Durant's world and gets some sort of revenge. And that's the basic plot. So the thing about this, the disguises that I appreciate, so he can use his fake skin to pretty much scan in, because computers can do anything in 1990. He can scan in images of people, and the computer will spit out a perfect mask of that person's face.
And it will recreate a damaged photo.
Yeah.
I don't know how it does that, but go with it.
I know how. It needs 500 hours of time, Tom Go. Didn't you see? God damn it. So he uses this to kind of fuck with Durant's gang and steal money and whatnot. After he's settled in a proper supervillain lair, kind of, he's found this abandoned, condemned warehouse that's like a Victor Frankenstein creation, really.
It's not It's not just an abandoned Frankenstein warehouse. It's his laboratory. It's the burned out husk of where he worked.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, I thought okay. Well, never mind then. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and not only that, but he purposely tries to reconnect with Frances McDormand without explaining exactly where he's at. And I don't know why, but I've always thought that was particularly cruel.
Yeah, well, he says that, yeah, he's finally able to develop his own face and go out in public for 99 minutes.
Yes.
And he explains that he didn't die and he's been in therapy at the hospital, and that's why he's got to vanish all the time to go back to therapy sessions, which is really the worst excuse ever. But he also plays himself with his face again, kind of weird and unhinged.
Yes.
He's I mean, if I was Frances McDormand, I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Why are you looking at me with that and talking to me with that psychotic tone?
Along with no pain comes no inhibitions emotionally.
Right? That makes sense.
If he gets annoyed, it just increases exponentially.
Yeah, like the scene in the amusement park.
Yes, where the carney obviously is cheating him, and he ends up breaking the carney's fingers, throwing him through the booth, and forcefully grabbing the pink elephant for Frances McDormand, which is the funniest goddamn scene I've seen easily in all of 1990.
Yeah, it's pretty great. The thing I like when he take the place of Durant's men, he can recreate the face, but he's got to practice on the voice, and he's got to take pictures from afar to study their mannerisms, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that the movie took that into account, where he just doesn't...
And, he also sneaks recording through microcassette, and he studies their mannerisms, their voice, and he studies them.
Yeah, I appreciate those little details, because in a lesser movie, he'd put on the face and just be that person, and that would be that.
I mean, he even infiltrates the gang as Durant himself, and he convinces the gang that he is the boss. He almost convinces Durant's boss, in fact, that he's sneaking in. It just doesn't quite work.
I really, really dislike the fact that Durant wasn't the main bad guy. I don't like the last final battle.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where the Renaissance Center takes place in Detroit. I mean, you could tell. I mean, everything in that scene, that's all Detroit. Early 90s Detroit, you could tell.
I guess I was too disgusted to notice, because I really...
Well, I'd say that's the main flaw in this movie. The huge chase scene takes place at the end of the second act between Darkman and Durant, where they have the huge helicopter chase scene.
Yeah.
And it ends, and honestly, that's probably where the movie should have ended.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to face the final boss.
Yeah, which is dumb, because he's a dumb final boss.
I think that's the fatal flaw of this movie.
I agree. 100%. I agree with that.
Because it wasn't the Red Skull that he faced, and ended up being just businessman Lex Luthor. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wasn't even mad scientist Lex Luthor. It was businessman Lex Luthor. And the thing that pisses me off even further is that businessman Lex Luthor was kind of beating his ass for a little bit. And I'm like, what about the adrenaline surges and enhanced strength?
Well, he did have that, where, I mean, he had the nail through the hand, and he was just able to brush that off.
Well, yeah, because his hands lost all feeling because they were burnt to a crisp.
Yeah. It's not a perfect movie.
No. The one thing I do like about the final battle is Darkman gets the upper hand, and the bad guy, Strack, I think his name is, says that, oh, you won't kill me. You can't live with killing me. And Darkman says, I'm learning to live with a lot of things, and just lets him drop.
Yes.
I love
That's
that.
what I love about this movie. The fact that the good guy realizes he's not really that good of a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have good motives, but he's willing to dirty himself in order to achieve those motives.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, maybe that's just the Frank Miller, Alan Moore generation I grew up in, but I love that.
Yeah, the grim and gritty.
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
You're a vigilante, aren't you?
You know what? If I had the motivation, the money, and the free time, maybe.
Oh, my God. Don't piss this Tomko off, folks. Don't do it.
God help you if I win the lottery. That's all I'm saying.
The ending scene, we see the final Darkman as Julie tries to win him back and say, "Don't leave me."
The Sam Raimi geek in me just loves this ending.
She tries unsuccessfully to find her beloved Peyton, but he no longer wears the face of a Liam Neeson. He wears the face of a Bruce Campbell.
Yes.
And the narration says, "I am everyone and no one, everywhere, nowhere. Call me Darkman." And it's amazing.
I'm not gonna defend this movie. It's a stupid movie. But God damn, it's fun. It's so fun.
Well, okay, so my girlfriend Pookie, whom I adore, she did not know. She didn't hear of Darkman. She asked what we were recording about tonight, and I said Darkman, and she didn't. I don't know. She's dumb because she's never heard of this movie, you know. So she looked at the trailer because she looked it up and said it was Sam Raimi and Liam Neeson, and she loves Sam Raimi. So how she missed this one, I don't know. But she watched the trailer and she said that's the best trailer I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So there you go.
If you're a Sam Raimi fan, you're going to love it. Just like you love A Perfect Plan, just like you love For Love of the Game, all of those movies. But if you're a mainstream, just straight-laced movie fan, it's going to be dumb.
Right. There's more Bruce Campbell in this movie than you originally thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the oral history, Bruce Campbell says, "My first wife divorced me, so I was broke and going, what the hell?" So Sam goes, "Come on, we're doing post on Darkman. I have all sorts of problems. We both love sound. It needed lots of looping, lots of sound effects. So I made studio guy money and wound up voicing every criminal who fell to their death. Holy shit," I screamed my brains out.
Awesome.
And they're good vintage screams. We got to a point where we were mixing, and Sam goes, "Shit, I need Darkman to yell Julie." And he looks at me and says, "Get in the booth." So that's in there. And I did all the television looping for Liam. So Bruce Campbell really is Darkman.
Now, here's my question. And I'm assuming you're a Sam Raimi fan, sir?
Yeah, for sure.
I've not been able to spot the classic in this movie.
What's that?
The classic?
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
It's the car.
Oh, the car.
Yeah, it's been in every Sam Raimi movie, including The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, it's in this one.
Where is it?
I don't know. I'll have to look. They mention it in the oral history, I believe.
It has to be in there.
Yeah, it's in there. It's somewhere. I don't remember. I wish I had it in front of me, but I don't. So yeah, as we said before, Darkman spawned a video game. It was followed by 2 sequels, Darkman 2, The Return of Durant, which is the dumbest thing because he got blown up in a goddamn helicopter. But in that movie, he wakes up from a coma. He wakes up from a coma after being blown up in a goddamn helicopter. You kidding me? And he tries to steal a particle beam weapon to become a supervillain. That's what happens.
Oh no!
And he's played by Larry Drake again.
No,
Dr. Giggles. Darkman's played by Arnold Vosloo because obviously Liam Neeson wasn't going to return. Arnold would play.
Oh, come on! What's your choice? Schindler's List or Darkman 2?
You don't want to be in Darkman 2, Return of Durant? Are you kidding me? What's Spielberg got that this direct-to-video shit don't? There's a particle beam, for crying out loud. You're going to co-star with Dr. Giggles. Jesus. Arnold Vosloo would go on later to be Imhotep in the Mummy movies, the big bad in the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies, I should add. And if you're interested in the Mummy movies, I did a retrospective for the anniversary of the original Mummy movie on the Epic Film Guys podcast last year. Just me and Nick, so you can check that out.
Another one that I have to admit in shame I saw in the theater.
I did too. I think I saw that and The Mummy Returns in the theater.
With the graphics that looked like it was spawned by a PS1.
Oh, man. So, yeah, the CGI in that movie in some scenes is goddamn brilliant, and in other scenes it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yes.
It's
yes.
awful. And I'm thankful that Darkman came out when it did in 1990, because if it came out in 1990,
CGI.
Yes, because if it came out in 1999, that amazing, awesome practical makeup effect of Darkman's burnt face would be CGI and look like trash.
Mm-hmm. It would, yeah.
And Darkman 2 apparently was so successful, it spawned Darkman 3, Die, Darkman, Die, which is the best title ever. We've established that. There was also an unaired television pilot. Did you know this?
No!
Yeah, they made a television pilot. And of course, because he needed the work, I guess, Larry Drake came back to reprise Robert Durant.
Oh, God!
Yep. It kind of follows the movie. The pilot does a little bit, except Julie is also killed in the explosion that turns Peyton into Darkman. And so that gives him more of a reason to seek vengeance. In more recent years, Darkman has made a return in comic book form. Did you know this happened?
No.
In a comic where Sam Raimi creations collide, Darkman versus Evil Dead, because of course.
Oh! I would read
course.
that.
I'll send it to you. I found it. I was going to read it and review it, but I didn't have time for that either. So I'll send it to you.
I'm a little leery because I love this movie so much. I don't want it spoiled by sequels.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%. And especially direct to video sequels.
Yeah.
But
you know what? I will risk this for the show.
Okay.
I said I will risk my memory of the original Darkman to read the Darkman Evil Dead crossover.
Okay, we'll make it happen then.
All right.
Isn't it amazing how Evil Dead has become such a, I don't know, flexible franchise? Because Ash Williams has crossed over with everybody.
Well, come on, Ash. Come on. He's awesome.
He's had a Xena Warrior Princess crossover. He's had a Darkman crossover. He's even crossed
Jason versus Freddy versus Ash,
which we are going to review for Halloween. I've decided that.
Yes.
And he's even crossed over into the goddamn Marvel universe in Ash versus Marvel Zombies, for crying out loud.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. So Dark.
You know what? I don't care who he goes against. Ash always wins.
Ash always wins, except for if he goes against Batman, because Batman always wins.
No, I'll give it to Ash.
Damn. Would you love to see a Darkman reboot? Are you surprised it hasn't happened yet?
I'm surprised it hasn't happened, and I'm grateful it hasn't happened. I'm glad that this is a hidden gem that I can just covet.
It kind of frightens me that there was actually attention paid to the 30th anniversary, because I feel like that means some studio execs' ears perked up, and they're like, oh, there's money to be made here.
The only way I would accept a Darkman reboot is if Sam Raimi did it.
Yeah.
If he was giving
That's
carte
fair.
blanche for budget and content, do it.
Do it.
Otherwise, I'm not interested.
Maybe Marvel should buy Darkman, and Darkman can show up in the next Doctor Strange movie.
Do it.
Do it. All right. I think that about wraps it up this week. Tell the people where they can find you, sir.
You can find me on a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, or pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on the Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group, on Twitter at at The Drunken Dork, and that's pretty much about it.
Okay. We want you to get a hold of us and tell us some movies we should review. We would love that. So email me at someone's favorite movie podcast at gmail.com, or hit me up on Twitter at mretailslave. Join our Facebook group for Miserable Retail Slave, which is the big dumb comedy show that I do with my friend Tommy. It's called Miserable Retail Slave. That's the name of the group. Search it on the Facebook. You'll find it. It'll be fun. I guess that's it. I don't have anything else to say.
I think that's about it. All right. So we'll see you next time, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.